How many letter of recommendations do you actually need to apply for a position?
It's different in US. Basically, in US, during the application process itself, to complete your application process, you have to submit.
So when we ask for letter of recommendation in Europe, I used to just ask that, can we provide your name?
Of Europe is like they don't ask while applying
Yeah.
letter of recommendation. They only ask the name.
Also, how do you know that these professors are writing a good recommendation letter and a bad recommendation
Like
letter?
they says that I can give only 3 letter of recommendations. Okay, and let's say you are applying for 8 universities.
Okay, the student was there in my class. He was very attentive. He was asking questions, and he got this grade.
And
Those
if
kind
you
of-
have done any internship and if you have made report, you can send it.
What if your supervisor, the master's supervisor, doesn't give you a letter of recommendation while applying for PhD? What should we do?
3 people, 3 countries, and 1 long Zoom call. This is the Accidental PhDs, where 3 PhDs talk about research, science, grad school, and everything in between.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Accidental PhD. I'm Basil from University of Chicago.
I'm Karthik from University of Potsdam.
And I'm Alok from Comenius University. So in this episode, we'll be talking how to ask your supervisor or professor for letter of recommendations.
Yeah, it's very important. Like most of the PhD applications in US as well as in Europe, you need a letter of recommendation for your application, someone who is supporting you in your application process. So always it's a question how you approach a professor to ask for a letter of recommendation. So let's dive into it.
Okay, so how many letter of recommendations do you actually need to apply for a position?
So it's a good question. For US, maybe for a single application, you may need up to 3 letter of recommendations, maybe some places 2 letter of recommendation, but I would say generally 3 letter of recommendation. What about in Europe?
In Europe,
It's
it's usually 2, right?
Yes, 2, 1, sometimes 1 also.
Sometimes 0.
And
Sometimes 0, yeah.
sometimes 0. Sometimes you don't need any letter of recommendations.
And also in Europe, while applying, sometimes they don't directly ask you for a letter of recommendation. I mean, most of the times they don't ask you directly. They just ask you to write a name of the person who can give a letter of recommendation. So when they finalize you or when they shortlist a group of candidates, then they themselves contact that professor whose contact you have given, and then they'll directly ask a letter of recommendation from them.
Yes.
So it's not like you have to give a letter in advance.
It's different in US. Basically, in US, during the application process itself, to complete your application process, you have to submit all these letter of recommendation. But there will be an application window or a website in which you're applying these things. So you don't have to bring the letter of recommendation. You don't have to ask the professors to give them the letter of recommendation to you to upload, but the professors will directly upload it when you give the mail ID of the professor in the website or in that window, the portal, I'm saying the portal, application portal, they will get a link to their mail ID where they can directly upload their letter of recommendation. So the letter of recommendation is directly uploaded by the professors have much value than us uploading it, because we have higher chances for editing it again. So direct uploading is better than us uploading the LOR.
So when we ask for a letter of recommendation in Europe, I used to just ask that, can we provide your name in the PhD application? We don't ask directly for a letter of recommendation. We just say that we are applying for this position and can I add your name?
So many students have this question. I also got this question a few days before from one of a student who is applying for PhD, saying the problem is that you are applying for several programs. You're applying for several universities. So you need more than 3 or more than 5 letter of recommendation from a single professor. So how are you going to approach this professor? Are you directly going to approach this professor every time when you need a LOR? So I said to him, or my opinion to in this regard is basically, first thing is that you have to make your mind that I'm going to apply for this many programs in this window. I'm applying for 6 universities, let's say 7 universities. In that, you can apply to any universities if there is no need of LOR. You can apply without the support of your supervisor or professor. But I will apply to 7 universities who needs an LOR. LOR means letter of recommendation. Then talk with your supervisor, talk with your professor, mail them and say that I'm planning to apply for PhD in this window and I'm planning to apply to these 7 universities. You can even mention the names of the universities, even if you haven't confirmed that you're applying there. Just mention, they won't remember that you mentioned these 7 universities and you're applying for a different one. Just say that I'm planning to apply for these 7 universities. And I would really appreciate if you can give letter of recommendation for all these applications. So in that way, you have already given a heads up that I need 7 LOR from you. So rather than individually going 7 times to him or her, asking for individual letter of recommendation for each programs. That is the best way, I would say. What about, do you have any comments on
in
that?
Europe? It's the advantage of Europe is like they don't ask while applying letter of recommendation. They only ask the name, and when they shortlist, then they will send it to the professor directly. They will ask. But yeah, it's like if you're applying in so many positions, it's not that you are going to be shortlisted in all of them. So it's easy. Yeah, and also like in UK, they gave me when I was applying in UK, they gave me a format for letter of recommendation. So they asked me to like, you have to give it to your supervisor. He will write in this, and then he can submit it directly to us like that. Yeah.
Also, if you have to ask for even multiple letter of recommendation, like in US, you shouldn't hesitate about asking. It's not a lot of work for the professor. You just have to change a single line, right? I mean, it would be more or less same if you're applying in the same field. You just have to change one line that, okay, the student is applying in this university, so he has to change the name of the group and name of the university. So don't hesitate and don't think that, okay, it'll bother my professor too much. It's fine.
Also, there are like professors, some of them, like they says that I can give only 3 letter of recommendations. Okay. And let's say you are applying for 8 universities. So if there is, it is there in mind, if it is there in your mind that there are 4 professors who will be giving letter of recommendations to you, so you always make a list that for which university you are going to ask these professors. Okay. So that is necessary. If any professor is very powerful and he told you that he will give only 3, then you have to give the preference accordingly. Okay. So this thing you should keep in mind, I think.
Yeah, powerful in sense influential.
Yeah, influential.
Yeah.
Also, the professors from whom you're asking this letter of recommendation, you should have worked with them. Only then they could write a strong letter of recommendation. You can't ask them from random professors. You can ask them, but they won't hold that much value and they won't be able to write those many good things about you in the letter. It would be a very generic thing. But if you have worked with them in an internship, they have taught you in class, you have been with them for a long time, you have done your master thesis with them, then it would really be a good recommendation letter.
That's why it is very important to do internships. And if you want to know how to apply for internships and what are things you need to know about internship, we have an episode on internships. Maybe our second episode, right? Go there and watch it also. Because if you have all these recommendation letters from professors that you have worked with, for example, in US, you're applying for a program and you need 3 letter of recommendation. 3 of them are US mentors or guides or supervisors at some period of time. That's a strong LOR, because all these 3 knows you directly. You have worked under them. So the LOR they write will be quite strong and it will be very beneficial for you.
Yeah.
And if you are thinking that one professor who is very influential, but you don't have any sort of connection with him, but you think that, okay, if he writes a letter of recommendation for me, it will be beneficial for you. But be cautious that if such people won't write wrong arguments or something like that, they will just write what is there. So you don't know what he's or she's going to write in the letter of recommendation. So never take such risks. Maybe they will say that I don't know this guy much, but he has sit in the class and he's an average student. You can consider his application in such a way, because all these strong influential professors, they don't give the letter of recommendation as a freebie. They know that if I'm recommending this student and I'm a prominent person in this field, people is gonna, if something is done by this student, people is gonna judge me based on him or her. So always go with those who are near to you, who are more connected with you, rather than going to a big shot who doesn't have any sort of connection with you.
Yeah, it's a matter of reputation for them too.
Yeah. Also, how do you know that these professors are writing a good recommendation letter and a bad recommendation letter? I've read through some of the articles in which they're saying there is no explicit bad recommendation letter. Bad recommendation letter means a recommendation letter which is not positive. It's not about being negative, but a neutral recommendation letter is sort of a bad recommendation letter, because the professor is saying that he is not a good match without saying it directly, by just simply writing it neutrally. So so this happens if you contact anyone who has no connection with you, who you have not worked with him, and you just ask him 1 or 2 times, 3 or 4 times, and okay, I will write it for you, and they will write something very plain. And someone who reads such a letter of recommendation letter which is very plain and which doesn't have any specific points, they get a feeling that, okay, this person is implying that you should not take this student. So don't go with such mistakes. Don't do such mistakes. Okay, now let's talk about how to approach these professors, right? You have to mail them. Maybe you can directly go and talk to them. Go to their office, talk to them directly. Also, it is good to mail them with all the details, right? What are details you have to mention? Maybe these professors may not know everything that you have done, which is matching. So just mention that I have done these things. Also, you mentioned the example. There was this article I read that was from Imperial College of London. They were mentioning that in a letter of recommendation letter, if the professor is quantitatively assessing the student, for example, he is the top 2%, he is one of the top 2% student in our class, or he's top 1% of student in our class, something like that, or he is one of the best student that I have mentored so far in my career. If they have some sentences like quantitatively assessing the quality of the person, that's a good point. So such things you can mention. Also, you can mention that while writing the professor, right, ask the professor, right, I've done these things, I've worked with you these things, and these are matching. So can you please mention all these things in your letter of recommendation? So you can give the inputs, so that they will just copy paste and edit that, and you can give the inputs that I need these informations in the letter of recommendation.
Yeah, that's a good
Also,
point.
like you can mention, or you can, if you have done any internship and if you have made report, you can send it in the email. Also, you can send a CV with that. So it would be a good reference, because there are so many students doing internship and it's very difficult to remember you. Like,
Yeah.
so if you give all these details, then he can recall it and then he can write accordingly.
Many of the times they won't be remembering how much grade you got or what grade you got in their class. So if you attended their classes which they taught, you can just write an email that, okay, I have attended these classes taught by you and I received this grade in your classes. Can you also mention that? So that professor can also write about his personal experience, that, okay, the student was there in my class, he was very attentive, he was asking questions, and he got this grade. Those kind of things. And also you can, as Alok said, you can send your CV, or you can just also write that, okay, I've also done an internship in this other labs, and can you also mention that, not from that university, or even if it's in some other university, a professor can write, okay, that he also has experience in these things, and that if it would come through him, it would be, it would have much more weight if he's saying this, and that, okay, the student has also experience in other things.
Yeah. Also, as
Yeah.
Alok mentioned earlier, if the university or the PhD program mentions that these are the things that you have mentioned in a LOR, you can send that file to the supervisor, say that you have to mention these things. Even if the university doesn't say that, that's a tip from my side. Just mention that the university has mentioned these things to be included. Okay, so in the mail you just mentioned that university has mentioned that these things should be included. So can you include these things? So be creative so that they will write all those things. It's all for you. So even if the university doesn't mention, just make up a story and just say that, okay, the university has asked to include these things. That will be better. Okay, so what if your supervisor, the master's supervisor, doesn't give you a letter of recommendation while applying for PhD? What should we do?
First of all, you shouldn't go to a lab whose professor is not good at giving recommendation letters. So while choosing your lab for your master thesis, you should ensure that, okay, this professor can later support me in my PhD applications. He can give me or provide me with multiple letter of recommendations. You should always talk with the people who have graduated from that lab and who have gone for PhDs abroad. That's one of the things.
Yeah,
what else can you do?
prevention is better than cure, right?
Yeah. If you and if you got into those kind of labs, then other option is that the professors who have taught you courses, if you feel that this professor knows you better, then you can ask that professor that I need your letter of recommendation, I'm applying for PhD positions. You explain it in a proper manner, then he or she will be happy to give you. That is another option.
Also, always do internships, always work in different labs.
Yeah.
So that if one supervisor in a lab doesn't give you a letter of recommendation, you have some other people to contact. So never depend on a single person on your entire career.
Also, if you don't have any other options right now and you are looking for a PhD position, you can maybe do a small project in some lab for 6 months, 4 months, work with some professor, so that you'll have one more option from whom you can ask for a letter of recommendation. I mean, that's the last option if you're not able to get recommendation letter from anyone else.
Also, one tip that I can give you is, like, while applying for while doing internships, like whenever I did internship, for example, NCP or internship. So after the internship, I talked with my the guide there, supervisor there, and I said that I don't need a certificate from you, but I will contact you while I'm applying for PhD. So currently, I don't need any certificates, because it's not about certificates. It's about the connection that I have with you, so that if you can recommend me while applying for PhD. I saw him after 6 months or something on a conference. We were waiting in the queue for taking food, and that time also he said, okay, I haven't give you the certificate, right? And I don't need your certificate. I will contact you while I'm applying for PhD. So you should have this said to your supervisors during internships also. Make it clear that I will contact you. Please help me during that process. Make it clear. So that's all about letter of recommendation. So it's all about keeping good connection with your supervisor, your mentors, and everyone. Never go to them when you need them. Always keep connections with them initially itself. So don't go to them if you have done an internship in your first year and you have no contact with that supervisor or guy, and after 5 years you are mailing, hi doctor, this, I am applying for PhD. He may not remember you. So keep connected with these people, mail them at least once in a year, keep a contact with them, so that towards the end they will be there for you to support your application. So that's all. So see you in the next episode, where we'll be discussing more about how to prepare for a interview and how to crack a PhD interview. Okay. Since then,
Bye.
bye.
Bye.